Hey guys, we're live. This is Steve from Cookout Coach here again with you tonight on the ABC FAQ live stream. We're here with David Parrish, inventor of the Slow and Sear. How you doing tonight, David?
I'm doing great, Steve. How you doing? Steve Square.
Here again with you tonight on the
Sorry.
Again.
Hey, there you go.
Did we give him some grief about that? Do you need some gummies?
I don't have any food. All my ribs are gone. Disappointed.
Out of ribs and out of pizza. That is Steve from Not Another Cooking Show with us again tonight. And as usual, we've got Christy from Christy's Cooking Channel and Justin from the Baby Back Maniac running around in the chat, also helping answer some questions tonight. So that being said, David, we've got a list of questions. We seem to keep getting a longer list every time we do this, so let's go ahead and jump into it, if that's okay.
Yeah, this is fun. I really enjoy it. So the more questions, the better. You guys post more questions in the chat. We'll get to them. So what we got?
All right, so the first question we're going to start off with tonight is, when using the Slow and Sear, is water or sand a better barrier in the trough in the Slow and Sear?
I don't understand this question. I mean, is this okay? So not sand. Never put sand in the reservoir. You really, I mean, it's a double wall barrier with air in between when there's nothing in it. So it is a great insulator just as it is. You use water when we recommend when you're cooking below 325 and you need smoke adhesion, extra smoke adhesion or extra temperature regulation. Use the water for that. I guess some people would use sand as a thermal sink, so it would soak up heat, and then over time it might help stabilize temperatures. I never do that. You really don't need to do that with the Slow and Sear. You'll maintain steady temperatures even with just air in there. And if you were going to use sand, I'd recommend something like bricks or something, but instead. But no, not sand. Use water.
Yeah, you know, David, this is one that I don't know why, but like you said, it always comes up, and it always comes up on water cookers. It's I feel like it's been the eternal debate on the Weber Smoky Mountain, and I've even heard it in the big Myron Mixon H2O water cookers.
Yeah,
I heard him tell a story once of he had a buddy in somewhere in the Northeast who put sand in it, and the temps went up, and you couldn't take it down like you could with water, and it warped that pan. So from Smoky Mountains to Slow and Sear.
That's a good point, because water, you know, it gets 212 degrees or whatever your boiling point is, and it's not going to go above that temperature until it turns to steam. With sand, it'll just keep going past 212, and there's no phase change that does the extra heat sink. That gives you the extra heat sink factor. I don't want to get too technical talking about phase changes.
Break out those physics on us.
Yeah, we don't need sand though. And in those two situations where you mentioned the sand, I think those individuals are probably spritzing or doing something else to add humidity to the environment. Or they have a lot of meat on there, so they don't feel like they need to add humidity. You could, you know, like with a Weber Smoky Mountain, you might be running into that where you're using both racks and you got a ton of meat in there. But yeah, just use water.
Gotcha. So our second question is a little bit more related to the history of the Slow and Sear, and that is simply this commenter wanted to know which came first, the Slow and Sear or the Gorilla Q?
So the Slow and Sear came first. The Gorilla Q, and this is back in 2015. We were on Kickstarter, and we're trying to raise money for our first production. And I had and the guy that invented the grill, or I can't say invented, the guy that knocked off the Slow and Sear to create the Gorilla Q actually backed us on Kickstarter, left a message, said, I love this product. I can't wait to get one. I love you guys. A couple of weeks later, I heard from legal where I worked that I could not have a Kickstarter program. They would let me moonlight and they would let me run a side business, but I couldn't be funded by the public because it could have been a conflict of interest, because I could be seen as someone that could be persuaded if people that were under the influence of the company or the organization I worked for, we audited financial statements or reviewed the audits of financial statements. I'm really watering that down. Anyway, so I turned off the Kickstarter campaign, and I think this guy decided when I stopped the Kickstarter campaign that we'd failed to launch or whatever, but that wasn't the case. We had the money we needed. We just couldn't have the Kickstarter campaign. So he created his version of the Slow and Sear, which ended up being a design that we had considered and discarded because the wall of the charcoal basket, the circular wall, is actually really important to the overall function. And also, without the wall, you have to find some other way to stand up the reservoir. So we had considered the Gorilla Q design, and it was inferior, so we didn't move forward with it. Anyway, he took it. He came up with it on his own, I guess. Aside from copying us, he had a website and hit the market about the same time we did. So, and then he also got onto YouTube and did some YouTube videos. And you guys as YouTubers know, when you start doing YouTube videos, all the other YouTubers, you know, want to know who you are, want to get to know you, whatever. He became part of the YouTube Brotherhood, and he grew that first year or so on YouTube in that manner. And it was a kind of a barrier of entry for us because the YouTubers that were around then thought we had copied Gorilla Q. It was actually exactly the opposite. Big shout out to Rush Jones from Smoky Ribs. He was the first YouTuber to review the Slow and Sear, and he well, I won't tell the story. If he wants to tell it, he can. But he was the first YouTuber to review the Slow and Sear, and we definitely appreciate that. I don't think that product's around anymore. It never did gain traction like the Slow and Sear did, and I mean, the Slow and Sear is a superior product in functionality anyway. And I don't know. Did I ramble enough on that one? I felt like I talked a lot. Is there any questions on that one? Maybe more detail I could give or something? I don't know.
Questions in the live chat right now, or questions from last week?
I mean, is there anything you think I didn't really hit with that? Or maybe if there's a live chat.
So the commenter that made that comment, just they stated after the fact that they couldn't find an originating date of the Gorilla Q. They just knew it existed.
Yeah, they actually even created they faked the date. Let me put it that way. But they were after us, and I have proof should I ever need to demonstrate it legally. But yeah, they knocked us off.
Gotcha.
We took them out just through competition though, so we never had to pursue it legally.
Yeah, I can also say I think I've only ever seen one video of a Gorilla Q, and it was I don't know that it was, but it looked a lot like just a demo, like we do for a lot of, as YouTubers do a lot of product demos. It looked like just a product demo, and I never saw that particular YouTuber use it again. So that sort of affirmed that thought.
Yeah, if we ever get in your grill, we tend to stay, and we're pretty proud of that. So
I can also say I've sorry about that. I can also say I've never taken my XL out of my 26. It's part of a grill.
Awesome.
That's how it works. So moving on. The next question we had from last week was, when you're using a pit temp control device with the Slow and Sear, should the Slow and Sear be on the same side of the vent of the pit temp control device, or should it be on the other side?
Okay, don't be like me and put the vent somewhere that your ash sweep system hits it. I did that. I ruined a kettle. So learn from that lesson. Make sure that you stay out of the way of your ash sweep system if you have one. As far as where to put it, I always have a drip pan in place. So I like to have the vent opposite the intake port, opposite the Slow and Sear, because then I don't have to worry about puffs of air coming through and blowing ash around that falls from the Slow and Sear. So I would put it opposite wherever you keep your Slow and Sear, below the charcoal grate, mostly above the sweep of the ash sweep, and in a spot where you can move the thing completely back and forth without obstructing its movement. And that's about all there is to that, I guess.
Yeah, the ash sweep gets everybody, I think. Actually, pretty sure Phil and Florence just within the last month or so had the same issue pop up, but it was close enough that he was able to take a file. And I think it was specifically a barbecue guru, and they've got that little hooded.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he was able to file it away just enough to where those paddles could sweep back and forth on that kettle.
Yeah, mine wasn't even close. It's bad. It was bad. I retired that kettle. That's actually my test kettle, my workhorse test kettle. It's been retired, but yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Our next commenter had the question. In the past, I've heard Dave mention the importance of maintaining a constant temperature in order to prevent the temperature fluctuations that can cause ignition smoke when temps rise and smoldering smoke when temps drop significantly. He said both are undesirable. How can you avoid this?
Okay, so you don't want ignition smoke and you don't want smoldering smoke. So when you put your charcoal in a chimney and it all gets lit, you have a really clean burn, you know? And then if you dump the charcoal in the kettle and you put the lid, even without a slow and here, if you just throw charcoal into the kettle, you put the lid on, it starts smoking again because you've reduced the air and you're extinguishing it. As the temperatures on the surface of the charcoal, as it loses oxygen, the fire starts to die, the temperature goes down, you leave that pyrolysis. So pyrolysis is when you have a clean burn, and that's when you get nitrogen oxide, which causes the smoke ring, and other particulates that give you good flavor without any of the bitter ash flavor. Once you get below that temperature and your briquette starts smoldering, your smoke's not clean anymore. So it starts to smolder, and that's when you're smoldering. Now with ignition, when you start adding oxygen to the environment, more oxygen than a steady flow of oxygen coming in, the briquettes the fire starts to further ignite on the briquette, and that fire has to come up from a lower temperature, which causes the ignition smoke as the briquette is heating up. I'm not explaining that as well as it makes sense in my head. When you have a constant burn, though, you have just the right amount of oxygen coming in, and it's burning just the fuel or the surface of the briquette, or even a corner of the briquette, if it's just a corner that's burning, and you don't get that smoke. So constant airflow, constant intake of oxygen will yield you clean smoke if you just give it time to do that. When people don't get clean smoke, they're either adjusting their vents so much that they're always either igniting or smoldering a briquette. They have some type of leak, and their airflow is not constant. But if your lid's on good, you don't have any lid leaks, you have your vents set in one position, you wait 10 minutes, the smoke will clear up once the temperature stabilizes.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that. It's one thing I'm always looking for in competition barbecue. I light off my pits a good hour beforehand, just as, to be 100% sure. When I put that meat on, there's actually nothing. You can't see anything coming out of my vents.
Yeah.
And those are Weber Smoky Mountains. But the smoldering issue is one that I definitely can attest to. Having a Kamado that likes to run hot, and you try to hold it down, and you can on a windy day, you'll just see it whipping out of the top of that thing, and if you're having a bad day, you'll see it whipping out of the top, and it's just that dark, not the right color smoke just swirling in there.
Right. It's just full of it too. Yeah.
And it's all that starch, and we've had some bad days. We'll say that. Moving on to our next question, one that I think everybody's asked themselves at some point in time, is just simply, how can you get ribs that are tender but not fall off the bone?
That's experience. I'm sorry, but if you nail it the first time you do it, you're probably lucky. You have to do it a few times. It comes with trial and error. When ribs fall off the bone, you have cooked them too long. And when ribs are dry and tough, you haven't cooked them long enough. There's a lot of different tests you can do. You can do the bend test, where you look for the bark to start to separate a little bit, where your tongs create a bend in the ribs. You can use a fork or a toothpick to poke them and see how tender the meat appears, and if you can twist it a little bit with the twisting the fork, something like that. For me, usually take 5 hours, 5 to 6 hours, 5 for baby back, 6 for spares or St. Louis. So they may take longer than you expect them to. Of course, stay tuned for hopefully later this week. Steve Casado did a video for us today, and that's going to come out in a couple of days. And this will get you some really good rib action in 3 hours. So stay tuned for that. But to answer the question, it's trial and error. And you got to do it a few times. Read about the techniques, that are out there, the bend test and the toothpick test or the fork or whatever, and stick with those techniques. And over time, you'll get it. And fall off the bone ribs are still pretty darn good. So enjoy them. I do it on purpose sometimes.
That is one of the beautiful things about barbecue is if you overcook it, it's still fantastic.
Yeah, you just put more sauce on it most of the time.
I have an argument all the time with people where we talk about, the goal is to get it like it would fall off the bone, but on the bone. And everyone goes, well, I love fall off the bone ribs. I know you like fall off the bone ribs because you've never had what I'm talking about. It's,
right.
Ignorance is bliss at a certain point.
To overcook them, restaurants do it all the time. I mean, they plan to overcook them.
Yeah. But 3 hour ribs, especially with the daylight we have now, that I'll be looking forward to that video.
Yeah, that's why we did it. Let you cook in the day.
Nice. So our next question comes in from a viewer who just wants to know, will a slow and sear work in their UDS?
So UDS is ugly drum smoker, and the answer is yes. There's a lot of drum style smokers that the slow and sear will, I say a lot. If the barrel you use has the right diameter that slow and sear will fit in it, it's just a matter of adding a ledge that, close to the top, 5 inches or so below the cooking grate that you put in your UDS, and you sit the slow and sear on that. Phil in Florence, shout out to him. He did that for his Weber Smoky Mountain. Phil, I know you're around. If you want to post a link to your video, if people want to check that out. And that mod, which is a great mod, it would work with any barrel that's 22 inches in diameter. Also, I forgot the name of it, but there's a really inexpensive grill out there. Old Smoky, I think. Yeah, it's the looks like two pails on top of each other. Yeah, a slow and sear even works great in that if you get the right size. So I've seen slow and sear work in a lot of different grills, but the kettle style is definitely the most common. Yeah, I actually just today I saw somebody post they took the charcoal basket for the Smoky Joe and put it in an Acorn, which I saw that and I was, because last year I started my channel with an Acorn and I was just like, well, that's awesome because I thought of that. Yeah, I think it was a night. Do you remember the diameter of the grate he bought? No. So the grate is weird. It's 19 and something. Yeah, it was like 19 and something, and it fits in the Acorn. Yeah. Where you would normally put your diffuser plate. Yeah. And then the slow and sear charcoal basket fits on that, and then you can put your regular Acorn a grate on top of that. And he ended up getting a custom steel grate, so he didn't have to use the porcelain coated cast iron that the Acorn comes with. But yeah, that was a great mod. I will definitely be mentioned, because we have people with Acorns at emails you know,
Yeah.
once or twice a month. And now I'll be telling them that method.
Well, I field questions all the time, enough so that I actually made a video about it. About people just have a hard time with the acorn because it's a little overly efficient.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can limit it down with the slow and sear, before you get your feet under you, I mean, I saw that. I just thought that was brilliant. So that's what I'm going to be telling people about now. But good times. All right, I guess enough of that. Moving on to the next one, we got, in regards to dry brining, we know it works great on thinner cuts of meat like steak, but how well does it work on larger cuts like a roast, a chicken, a turkey, and would pork benefit from it? And I'm assuming when they say pork, they mean a pork butt or maybe a center cut pork, a bigger cut of pork.
Sure. Everything, all of the above, it all benefits from dry brining. The larger the hunk of meat, the longer it will take the salt to fully penetrate. But another thing to remember, salt actually penetrates faster when you're cooking. So even if you only do it overnight on a big hunk of meat, it will still give you a nice jump start, so the salt gets deeper in there during the cook. The best pork butts I've ever made, we dry brined. It, to me, takes it over the top. When it comes to skin, chicken, turkey, or what have you, dry brining a day or two in advance, the salt will draw the moisture out, and then that moisture, some of the moisture will evaporate, and you have to get the moisture out of the skin. And by moisture, I mean the water, and you have to render the fat before the skin will get crispy. And when it comes to crispy skin, it can just be a little extra cooking time that you need to get crispy skin. And what I mean by extra is normally cooked or properly cooked versus overcooked. By salting beforehand, you get dry skin quicker, so you don't have to overcook it to get the skin crispy. So that was a long-winded way of saying, yeah, put it on pork butt, put it on brisket. Be careful you don't do what we call double jeopardy and salt twice. So when you dry brine, definitely consider what kind of rub you're applying, and try to go with a salt-free rub, or make sure that you don't brine quite as much as what we suggest. If it's a packaged bird like a turkey or a chicken, you want to look on the label and see what the sodium content is. If it says about 100 milligrams, or a little bit less, that's natural. That's no salt's been added to the bird. If it says 200, 300, 400 milligrams per serving per ounce, then it's been salted. 200 or 300, you can still add salt. 400, that's around the level of salt that you get from deli meat, which is pretty salty. So I wouldn't salt it that way. But yeah, definitely salt big cuts of meat. It makes a big difference. Or the dry brine, it makes a big difference.
I can attest, you converted me, and I did it in my turkey video this year, and the skin was like ridiculous all around.
Yeah, that is without a doubt the one thing that YouTubers come back to us and say that or just our customers and say that definitely upped my game when I started dry brining. So yeah, give it a shot. Makes a difference.
It was something I had never done before, so it's a good one.
I remember the first time I ran across dry brining, it was on I think it was on Serious Eats website, and then again on Amazing Ribs.
Yeah.
And both those sites do a lot better job explaining than I do, but it's the science of, on a molecular level, a salt molecule can do a lot more to that meat than what people think they're doing with other things with brines.
Right.
I have all these friends who talk about, I'm wet brining with this ingredient, this ingredient, this ingredient, this. I'm like, well, that's great for that side, but
yeah, they don't penetrate. Salt, sodium chloride, simple element, onion, garlic, black pepper, those are all organic molecules. They're very big. They don't dissolve in water. They don't go into any kind of solution. The meat doesn't really absorb them very much. Fish is different. They will go a little bit into fish. So yeah, you can treat the salt and all those other things separately. Now, sugar is something that people use too, and that helps with the Maillard reaction because the sugar actually is what helps it turn brown. But that's kind of like cheating a little bit. You're not getting the Maillard reaction from the meat. You're getting it from the sugar. So it gives you color really before the meat's experiencing the Maillard reaction. So, but yeah. Anyway, definitely dry brine.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, we're getting close on time here. Let's go to the next one here. Do you have any plans on doing an efficiency test between the Slow and Sear and the Barbecue Dragon Grill Stone? If you weren't, do you have any suggestions on how to properly set up an experiment?
No, we're not. So that product is different. I've got one. Tom Horseman sent me his that he'd modified to work kind of like the drip pan, our drip pan does. So I've been playing around with that. It's different. The efficiency test, it depends on where you put the charcoal. If you put it in the center of the kettle, you might run into a similar efficiency with that stone as you do with the Slow and Sear. If you put the charcoal against the wall of the kettle, the Slow and Sear is going to win. So it just depends on how you did the test. But that product doesn't really do 2-zone cooking like ours does, and it's different. I don't see it as a competitor.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think Tom actually uses it in tandem with Slow and Sear.
Right.
Gotcha. All right. Well, it looks like we've got time for one last question, and Dave, we've been getting this question a lot, and so what it is will the current Slow and Sear work in the grill you're working on currently?
Oh, that is a good one. So this is really cool. The Slow and Sear and the Drip and Griddle and the Easy Spin Grate, those are our 3 core products that the whole business is built around. We have created a custom grill that uses those 3 products. So if you have the Slow and Sear 2.0, a Slow and Sear Plus, or a Slow and Sear, if you have our Drip and Griddle pan, and if you have our 22-inch Easy Spin Grate, this new grill uses those components. So yeah, it does work with us.
Well, there we go. I heard 22-inch. Time to head over to Postal Barbecue and enter that trifecta giveaway.
Yeah, he put a Slow and Sear Plus in his giveaway, which we don't even sell anymore, but that's what he had a new version of. We have a few in the warehouse that we've put aside for warranty replacement, and I'm kind of wondering if we shouldn't ship the winner of that contest one of our warranty pluses, because we don't get warranty claims, so we haven't had to ship them. But yeah, that's something that I've been thinking about. So if anybody has, whoever the winner is, we'll see what Jabin wants to do, but we might end up pulling a plus out of the warranty reserve to send that out to the winners. And that's if you guys aren't familiar with, you should be familiar with Jabin. If you've been on our channel, he's done some videos for us, but he also has his own channel, Postal Barbecue. It's listed on the front page of our YouTube channel as a featured channel, or just, search Postal Barbecue.
Cool. Well, with that, David, we have hit time for tonight. Appreciate your time, Steve, Justin, and Christy in the chat, and also all the viewers tonight. Thank you all for coming out and hanging out with us.
Yeah, thanks everybody for making it happen.
All right, so till next time, y'all take it easy. We'll see you later.